Saga, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Akwesasne Review, the first TV station dedicated to bringing you news and highlights from in and around Akwesasne.
And as always, we are your hosts. I'm Ryan King.
I'm Fallon Davis.
And my name is Benjamin Hearn. So we have a really cool segment today. We're going to go over 2015 year in review, and we're going to give 2 or 3 minutes for each one of these segments. And we're going to start off with Walking with Our Sisters. It was a really cool program. Fallon, you can provide us with some information about that. Once again, Walking with Our Sisters.
Yeah, okay, so this was quite monumental, Walking with Our Sisters, because this is a live exhibit that was traveling around Canada. It wasn't scheduled to come to Akwesasne until the year 2018. However, we had an opportunity and the traveling college jumped on that, so they had to quickly start organizing, raising funds to get the vamps here, because there was a lot of publications, marketing, everything that was around it as well.
Yeah, and a lot of us who are plugged into Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, they had a big social media campaign that they used to raise the funds to bring the exhibit here. It was a long time coming, and it was definitely something that everybody who went had something positive to say about it. The impact that people had, people came out of the exhibit crying.
Yeah.
It was powerful.
Now, one of the things I know about this program, it was to raise awareness for what Aboriginal women go through, not only in our region, but both in Canada and the United States. What do Aboriginal women go through?
A lot, I'm guessing.
Well, I guess for me, I was
what had happened was.
Well, this was not only about the women, but there's also a lot of missing children. These are just unsolved mysteries of what had happened with these women and children, and there's a lot of families and communities that were affected because there was no closure. So that's why the exhibit was brought about, so that we could bring it to the attention to the world, the people, whoever, and it just so happened that, it got Prime Minister's recognition on board. The longer you keep hollering, somebody's going to start listening.
And I think that was a more frustrating aspect for our community, and not just ours, but across Indian country everywhere, was these problems and these issues, and especially with murdered and missing Aboriginal women. How do you not respond to that? How do you have nothing to say except, oh, we'll look into it, or you hear excuse after excuse, oh, it's just a domestic violent situation and they just need to call the cops and this and that, or they just ran, there was just this laundry list of excuses that came from the Canadian government. And I found it very hurtful to not only our community, because there are murdered and missing women from our community as well, but just almost like a smack in the face to Indian country across Canada, that it's almost like you're saying these women and these cases do not matter.
Yeah.
And that's where that exhibit came in that you got to actually see. It was almost like a visual of like a number.
Yeah.
It's almost like putting a number on how many women and how many cases and how many people there are that are gone, are missing, that have no answer of where they are, what happened to them, or their whereabouts.
Right, and I honestly think in terms of raising that awareness, it did its job. So Walking with Our Sisters did a really good job of bringing out what's needed in our Indian country community.
Absolutely.
Another interesting tidbit of information that we have from 2015 was the Twin Leaf Fire. Now, this all affected us, whether we realize it or not. We all love to go to Twin Leaf for lunch. One of my favorites was the pizza, but it was a devastating loss for the community to having gone through that. And we really want to commend Kerry and his crew for rebuilding, and they're in the process of rebuilding. I don't know how it affects you guys, but one of my favorite lunch places.
Exactly, and I think any business around here, because we're so tied into our community, anything of that level, of that impact, affects everybody, whether we think about it or not. It's detrimental. Everybody saw, if you drive through 37, you can't.
And it was a freak accident. It
wasn't
like
it was traumatic.
It was traumatic, but it was it just happened.
And then, you know what? Josh and I had actually gone and hung out that night, and when we were heading back to Akwesasne, he looked over, he says, "Is that car on fire?" And then we were like, "Oh my God," and it was just really at that moment. And then the next day we drove by, and it was
gone.
gone, and my kids kind of were like, well, what happened or whatever, you know. So I was like, that's why you don't play with fire, or
Exactly,
teachable
but I
moment.
think it really shows that that rally that people provided to the family for the business. And we also have to give a shout out as well to our Akwesasne Volunteer Fire Department and all the other localities that came forward to help fight this blaze. Because in theory, it could have been a lot worse than it actually was.
Yeah.
And we're glad that nobody was
Yeah.
injured or harmed. But when you have to fight a blaze like this, it's pretty significant and a loss again to our community. The silver lining is that they're rebuilding as we
Yay.
speak, and they're getting closer and closer. And we're really excited for that day they open up, and maybe we'll be there for a grand opening as well. So
Hey, we're open to come. Just invite us. We'll come.
I also making it on our list for 2015, and I don't know too much about this, but maybe we get some input here from my co-host. The Cornwall Bridge tugboat situation. So what do we know about that? We know something sunk.
Yeah, a large sunk. From what I can gather, and I think it's kind of public and community knowledge at this point, that anybody that goes to Cornwall, the new bridge construction and the higher level bridge that came down, I think that was a big impact for us, because that bridge has been there for as long as we have been alive. So, to go to Cornwall and see that bridge come down, and in the past couple of years, the issue with CBSA and the customs and having them move over to the end of that bridge was, your wait on the bridge was about 2 to 2.5 hours minimum if you're trying to cross on a weekend. It was crazy. So to answer that, they took the big bridge down and they made a lower level bridge, and it seems to kind of help with the flow of traffic
So the
and
ship
whatnot.
and the tugboat, they were pretty much anchors to help deconstruct the larger bridge. So
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, they were helping with the
current.
destruction.
The current is strong.
Yeah.
We know that between the two. So the current somehow capsized.
Yeah.
And we did see pictures on Facebook
Yeah.
of our local men helping people get it out of the water. It could have been a really dangerous
Yeah.
situation.
There were actually two. There was a
Yeah,
second tugboat
because
that
one
sank.
went in to aid
Yeah.
the other tugboat,
The second
and then
boat
that
came
one.
in to aid the one that sank.
Yeah.
And I know with the first one, the guys were trying to help them get that one fixed and situated before it capsized. And like I said, we weren't there. We don't know exactly
Yeah.
the specifics of how and where and what time it happened.
Right.
But, just the fact that this big, these two big boats sank and they went into the water, and we all know the flow of the river and the
Yeah.
environment, the
It's a
environmental
dangerous
impacts.
situation, absolutely.
So, it was, as far as we know, it was rectified quickly. They did all kinds of environmental studies to make sure that nothing was going to impact
I know
us
that
as
there
far
was,
as health.
for a short period, people were asked not to drink any of the water,
Yep.
just to
Yeah.
ensure,
Yeah.
until the proper testing came through as
Yep.
clean, that, we want to ensure the safety for our community first and foremost. So I'm glad that kind of
Exactly.
was taken care of. And this time we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Akwesasne TV. We'll be right back.
Looking for a unique dining experience with formal decor? Need to plan an event? Outside the Box provides you with an atmosphere and event planners to create your vision of the perfect event. Whether it be elegant, timeless, playful, retro, or rustic, indoor or outdoor, we can create your dream event. We also rent linens, lighting, and more. Join us Friday nights for our open mic night, and stop by Tux on the Edge Designs for over 75 styles to match your formal wear for wedding, prom, quinceañera, and more.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching the Akwesasne Year in Review, and we're going to jump right back into it.
Kind of moving forward in our list, this was a fun night. I actually had a chance to attend the AB Awards in conjunction with Economic Development for the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe. I know Chris Thompson and his committee did a really good job of bringing this forward. And this was a night to highlight our local businesses from Akwesasne.
Yeah, and that AB award is an acronym for the Akwesasne Business Excellence Award. So that was our first year of kickoff here in Akwesasne for the economy, I guess, maybe.
Right. And we had a really good time going to this event. It was a gala event hosted by the Akwesasne Mohawk Casino in the Winter Ballroom. And every table was full. We had a great night. And again, highlighting each and every one of these businesses. And I think the big award at the end of the year did go out to Kerry Terrence and his company. And we really just applaud him because he does a lot for the community of Akwesasne in terms of sponsorships, donations, but also just community support and rallying. So I thought it was a really good event for us.
I think the
Definitely.
cool thing about it was all local. Everything was used as far as like the food, the decorations, even the construction of the awards themselves. Everything was utilizing the Buy Local campaign
Ooh,
that was
so
going
it's
around.
Totally organic.
Yeah, so everything was homegrown, homemade. Everything came from within the Akwesasne territory.
Nice.
And the highlight of local businesses, you know, we all drive by all these businesses almost on a daily basis, but how many of us actually stop and actually utilize, you know, some businesses that were highlighted there? So I think, in my opinion, I wasn't able to go. I had tickets to go and I ended up getting sick that night, so I had to miss it. But I did see all like the pictures and all the highlights and all the video awards and all that stuff afterwards. So I think that was an amazing, amazing event.
Yeah.
So like I said, kudos to the coordinating event. I know my girl Kylie Tarbell was in on it because I
She was
saw
a
her
big
dressed that night and
big driving
missed things.
force
Oh,
on
that
it
was
as well.
actually made by Gawani Sajak.
Yep. So she used the local
Yeah.
seamstress to make her dress. So
Right.
that just speaks to the more of the buy local campaign. So I think that's one of the bigger things that we can probably move forward in 2016 is to continue to support local businesses.
So this is going to be a yearly award, am I
Yeah,
correct?
I think it was the first inaugural award ceremony. And in addition to highlighting what we know is already here, it also gave an awareness to people that we might not have known about.
Right.
I know, like baskets made by Ann
Right.
Mitchell. I was blown away because for each one of these
Oh, yeah.
presentations, they did like a 30 to 45 segment of just highlighting what they do and a little bio on it.
Yep.
So, you know, when you're entering this room, you get to see them not only in person, but to see what they do. It's a pretty powerful moment for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I
Nice.
think the cool thing with all those businesses and highlighting it, a lot of these businesses give back to the community. So it's not like they're just, you know, here, you know, just conducting business,
Yeah.
which is true. They do conduct business, you know, Monday to Sunday. But there's also that giving back aspect to their business, which is very awesome.
So I think that maybe we can tell the businesses of Akwesasne to keep up the good work, and we'll see you at the next Abbey Awards.
So coming in at number 6 on our list of 2015 year in review, we want to speak a little bit about our St. Regis Mohawk Tribal and MCA elections that were held over the summer. So maybe Ryan can speak a little bit about the election process.
I know with the MCA side, not too familiar with the tribal side, but with the MCA side, they start out every 3 years with a clean slate. So everybody who was in an office or a council seat, they have to campaign again. They have to run for re-election, and you know they all have to get out there in the communities to let them know this is why I should be on council, and here's what I offer. I know this past election. Prior elections, there's always been maybe 1 or 2 new people at the table, maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 3 per council. Usually like a changeover of 1 per district. And I think the community spoke a lot in saying that they're looking for change. And there was a total of 7 new council members, 1 being our new Grand Chief, Abram Benedict, who came in as the new Grand Chief this year. So he's been doing a wonderful job as far as, you know, learning the process. Because Grand Chief, there's a lot of influence that you have there. There's a lot of authority and there's a lot of responsibility. You're out there hobnobbing with the big federal government people. You're getting to know, you know, federal government folks and making sure that Akwesasne is at the forefront of their issues. So this past term, there was 7, like I said, 7 brand new council members. And so far, they've been doing a pretty good job.
good.
I'm totally loving the diversity of the age
Yeah.
in the new
Yeah.
council.
And I think
Pretty
there's going to be a
awesome.
direct connect as well with the younger population. It seemed like the younger generation was somewhat of the minority of the community.
Yes.
Because we are driven a lot by our elders. But to incorporate everybody is not a bad thing.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's
Yeah.
actually a good thing. And I can speak a little bit about the St. Regis Mohawk Tribal elections as well. We did, let's see, a chief, a sub-chief, and then there was a new tribal clerk. So for the chief, congratulations to Eric Thompson. For sub-chief, congratulations to Cheryl Jacobs. And
Yep.
then tribal clerk, we appointed Betty Rompoint.
Yep.
So we had three new members. And again, this is every 3 years, so they have an opportunity to transition and work with the community for issues that are faces on the American side. So
Yeah.
we're really looking forward to changes that we can do with them as well. So It's good.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing, can I just add to that? real
Absolutely.
quick? The one thing that I did like about this year's elections on both sides is that the candidates actually took the time to go house to house and take their time and sit for 3 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, and actually listen to what the community had to say. I know that in the previous all we would see is sign after sign after sign after sign, so I think that this year there was a really big difference in where about.
And I just wanted to add to that as well. I'm glad you brought that up because there wasn't any mudslinging this year.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wasn't necessarily in years past, but I mean, it was such a great campaign for everybody that was running. So kudos to the entire community because it seemed like it was a really, really well-run, fair competition, and everybody in office is running for the,
Right
to
reasons.
betterment of the community. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to keep moving on in our countdown of our 2015 year in review. Number 5. This is a really cool one. The Travis Solomon Memorial Lax Box. Now, nobody has seen it before. This was a continuant of the Lax Box adjacent to the St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Police Department and right in front of the Diabetes Center of Excellence. So maybe you guys can enlighten me to how that came about.
Yeah, so it's right in the Generations Park. This was,
I want to say over the summer.
yeah.
I think it was within the springtime. I think they started because, as we all know, we're a very big lacrosse community. It's our top sport. It's what our community is known for. You know, we have a number of other athletics and athletes that our community and youth and even some adults participate in. But lacrosse is at the top. You know, we have people who are national figures now because of their skills in lacrosse. So one of the things that came up, I know, in community discussions was there's only one arena. It's on Cornwall Island, and the issues with the border crossing was coming up, and it was posing an issue for some folks because, you know, if you're coming from one district, for like, let's say Snai, to go to the island with the crossing, and you have to kind of time things. Sometimes you have to leave your house 45 minutes, so sometimes an hour earlier. If you have a 5 o'clock game, you got to get your kids and everybody up and out the door in an hour. You know, you have to leave your house by 4 to get to the arena.
But what I really like about it too is that now we can host tournaments here.
Yep.
And now that it's covered, there's a lot more opportunity for these kids to play year round. But we also want to just acknowledge some of the volunteers.
Absolutely.
I know Local 440
Absolutely.
came in and they were working hard to make sure this got set up. Bill Sears and amongst others donated time, effort, but also machinery to get this done. So again,
And the
another
supplies.
great example of our community coming together to help our younger generation, fulfill their dreams and kind of move forward with what they may want to do in their life.
Yep, because lacrosse can run year round now. They can play in the middle of winter if they wanted to because it's covered now. So, those skills can continue to build year round.
Right. And at this time, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, Everett from Furniture Weekend. My wife Kathy and I are wondering, since it's cold outside and you're spending more time inside, are you noticing that your sofa's worn out, your mattress has a sag, or your recliner needs replacing? See us for all your furniture needs. From rustic to contemporary, we've got it. Furniture Weekend, 44 Duane Street, Malone. Open 10 to 5, Friday through Sunday, or by chance or appointment. And remember, at Furniture Weekend, we open less, so you pay less.
Wideband Networks is now offering 80 channels of HD video services. Premier channels included in our lineup are Akwesasne TV, Showtime, ESPN, CTV, CBC, NBC, and HBO. Double play and triple play bundles available including internet, voice, and video services. The Wideband office is located at the Akwesasne Business Center, 447 Frogtown Road, Suite 205. For additional information, please call 518-333-0231.
Welcome back to the program, Akwesasne. You're watching the year in review, and we're going to jump right back into it.
So we're down to number 4, and this was a big one. So this has to do with one of our local schools, Salmon River Central School, and the girls lacrosse team. And I also wanted to segue into, the success of our Junior B Indians winning the Founders Cup and the WILC. So lacrosse, that's a great segue from lacrosse to lacrosse. So what can you guys tell me about what you know about that?
Yeah, this was just a very major year for lacrosse for us. Not only did we have the girls lacrosse from Salmon River with their Dick's Sporting Goods Olympics.
Recognition and
Yeah.
award and scholarship program.
Yeah, and then we had the World Indoor Lacrosse Championship hosted by Onondaga, and then we had the Junior B Indians Founders Cup. That was pretty big for one community to have
Yep.
such a celebration. And not only that, but we had the Thompson brothers who signed with Nike Lacrosse.
That's always huge.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways where this larger foundation is paving a path for our younger youth, role models, or something.
Yeah.
Everything is attainable now for the youth.
Yeah, when it came to lacrosse, it seemed, and Akwesasne, the spotlight was on our community for sure over the past year. We had our Salmon River girls who made on the Today Show to
Yeah.
have the check donated to them from Dick's Sporting Goods, which was awesome.
They had a documentary as well,
and
so
they
they
all-
went right
yep.
into the school
Yep.
system and started documenting these girls and their challenges, but also, what lacrosse means to them as a community member of Akwesasne. So it was so much bigger than just
Yeah.
a game of lacrosse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for the first time you had girls lacrosse being put on a national stage. You had however many millions of views that those videos got. People were like hungry for the next segment as soon as
Yeah.
the first one ended. Like,
Yeah.
they put out a video and if you ever read the comments on the bottom, it was just, oh my God, when's the next one coming out? I can't wait to see what happens with so and so, or how's Coach Swamp going to handle the next issue. Some of the things that they highlighted was her actually dealing with the demographics
Oh,
of
yeah.
the girls and their dynamic together. And with every generation and every sports team, you do have the older versus the younger. You get some internal conflict with the girls here and there, and not just the girls, but in teams in general.
Yeah.
You got to see a glimpse of how the coach handled that, and she did awesome. She pulled the ones who she felt could be leaders on that team and showed them, that you are the leaders to these next girls. You need to show them.
What I
Step it
really
up.
like about
Yep.
this as well is that not only did it give a platform for these young ladies to look forward for their lacrosse futures, there's already somebody that we need to highlight, and that's Erin Francis. She's currently enrolled at Syracuse University playing for their women's lacrosse team.
Wow.
Again, that's that role model along with the
Yeah.
Thompson brothers,
Yeah.
showing kids in our community that there's something out there for you if you work
Yeah.
hard, keep your grades up, and work towards that. But it's such a big monumental thing for our community. It's almost like a responsibility now
Yep.
because it's on a national forefront of what we can do and what we can provide. We are changing things. Okay, so we're going to keep moving forward in our list. This is exciting, guys.
It
This
is.
is a quick
It is,
review of
it is, it is.
2015 here. All right, so speaking of monumental moments for 2015, we had a local community member that had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and address issues that plague Akwesasne and the Indian country, but also meet the president. That's Sonny White. Now, I've
How
known
cool
this
is that?
young man since he's been a little kid, and he's so passionate about the community of Akwesasne. And he's somebody that takes the time to research these grants and proposals that offer opportunities for our people to go, and he wants to go out and do them. We commend you for that, by the
Yeah,
way. You've done a really,
Sonny.
really great
Good
job.
That's
job.
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Seeing
Yeah.
pictures. He also had got to meet with Jude Schimmel. So if anyone watches women's basketball, she plays for the
Yeah.
Louisville Cardinal, and they went to the national championship a couple years back with her sister Shoni Schimmel. But again, just to highlight Akwesasne and put our issues somewhat at the forefront of, at the leader of the free nation,
Yeah.
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, how many of us in our lifetimes can say we've met a president? Or even to walk by him or shake hands.
Let
This-
alone sit on a stage.
Yeah,
with
this
them.
young man sat on a stage and actually highlighted our community to President Barack Obama. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And we did a really good job in terms of, he did get a lot of recognition from the Indian Times, and you can go online and look up his name and how his conversation went with the president, and that's so impressive for somebody from here, not specifically because they're from here, but because he's taken an initiative to go and do these and to bring forward what our issues are. That's a
Exactly.
leader right there, folks. That's a
Yes,
young
it is.
leader in
Yes,
the
it
making.
is. Yes, it is.
And lastly, I guess it would be we would be remiss to miss one of the bigger things that we're incorporated with for 2015, and that was the introduction of Akwesasne TV. It's giving
We're
us
here.
yeah, we're here, folks. We're here now.
We're here.
It's giving us an opportunity to showcase again what's going on in and around Akwesasne, but it gives us a voice. You know, we always have known that CKONS does a wonderful job in terms of radio, but this is revolutionizing what we can do for the community in terms of television. We have broadband that's come forward now. People can actually buy a cable package and watch us, and then with our social media highlighting, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Pretty good host here sitting here
Well,
promoting it.
not only that, you know, if it wasn't for Akwesasne TV, we wouldn't be sitting here with our year in review, going back all of these monumental moments for 2015 in Akwesasne. So this is pretty big. I love it.
Yep, and I guess the best thing I can say is we're here. You know,
Yeah.
we're a very plugged-in community. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on TV, we're on the radio. You know, for a long time, you know, those are pretty much the only avenues and resources that we had, was the newspaper and the radio. You know, a lot of people, oh, I didn't hear about this, I didn't hear about that because I don't listen to CKON, or I don't listen, or I don't read the newspaper, or, you know, okay, how else are you going to get your news? How else are you going to find out anything?
Yeah.
It's almost like, to us, it's like, what do you mean you don't read the newspaper?
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't listen to CKON? It's almost unheard of.
So now we're on your TV, now we're in
Yep.
your social feeds, on your social medias, we're on your cell phones.
Yep, so buy that cable channel,
We
folks.
are everywhere.
But you know what? And I just want to say the opportunity for us is so great. So who knows where we're going to go in 2016. But I also wanted to, you know, personally thank, we do have a consultant from Ganawage, Regan Jacobs, that did a wonderful job coming on board, recruiting some of us. So, you know, for Regan. Also, the support of our St. Regis Mohawk Tribal Chiefs, of, you know, seeing this from fruition, from conversation to a platform to putting it in motion, and now we're sitting in a building dedicated to Akwesasne TV.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're excited, folks. And again, you know, purchase the cable station. Come check us out.
Get at us.
Add us on Facebook. Hit us up if you want us to come to an event and cover it. We'll come cover it. You know, just if there's some sort of event that you want to go to, I'm sure we can find some place and some
Feedback.
time to go. If there's something that you think that we need to cover, let us know.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of what we covered for 2015, I know it's a small segment of all these little pieces, but there's a lot going on in the community. And to what Ryan had pointed out, as well as Fallon, if there are big monumental things going on in and around Akwesasne, please let us know. We can be reached on social media. We can be reached right here at the station. We're only going to be as good for the community as the community shares with us.
Yeah.
So we're working with you, and we're looking forward to the challenges, but also the opportunities to, you know, bring you a whole new TV station in 2016. We have a lot of creative, bright minds here, right from our production to our camera crew, and we're looking forward to what we can do.
Absolutely. So we'll see you in 2016, folks.
Yeah, so that pretty much ends our segment here for our 2015 year in review with Akwesasne TV. And I'm Benny Hearn once again, and signing off.
I'm Fallon Davis.
Ryan King.
And this is Akwesasne TV.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You had the twitch.
Did I?
You're starting to twitch,
Am
Ryan.
It's my low blood sugar. All I had was greens. Benny ate all the ham.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
And the eggs.
Yeah.
I got nothing but salad. Okay. Gonna do another one?